All right, let's kick things off with a quick quiz. Guess who's more ambitious about career advancement, Gen Z or Millennials? If you're thinking there's a simple answer, think again. The answer isn't simple at all because their definitions of success are worlds apart. Imagine this. In one corner of the office, a millennial employee, after 5 years of dedicated work, is eagerly applying for that project manager position she's been eyeing. She's put in the long hours, paid her dues, and sees this as the logical next step on her path to success. In another corner, a Gen Z employee in the same role is thinking, why be a boss? It's so much work, so many meetings, so much stress. Maybe I'll switch companies for a pay bump and learn a new skill instead. This contrast isn't just hypothetical. It's playing out in offices around the world, creating a quiet tension that many leaders are struggling to understand. It begs the question, why such a massive difference? What socioeconomic and cultural forces shaped these two completely different worldviews on what a career should be? Want to keep up watch now the 7 trends these two generations are creating. Don't miss out on insightful workplace culture analysis. Hit the subscribe button now to catch our latest episode. 1. Millennials and the career ladder. To understand the millennial mindset, we have to travel back to the late 2000s and early 2010s. This generation walked straight into the workforce during or in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 Great Recession, the largest shock to the U.S. economy since the Great Depression. It was a brutal landscape. Unemployment was soaring, competition for scarce opportunities was fierce, and many highly educated graduates found themselves unemployed or underemployed, taking on unpaid internships or low-level jobs just to get a foot in the door. This experience of economic precarity at a formative stage of their careers left a deep, lasting psychological scar. It created a generation that was simultaneously scarred by instability and, as a result, tethered to the traditional corporate model of success as the most viable path to security. For them, a stable, long-term corporate job with a clear hierarchical progression wasn't just a goal, it was a sanctuary. They were encouraged by their parents, mostly baby boomers, to work hard to climb to management. Success was measured in tangible, visible rungs on a ladder team lead manager director. The data from that era paints a crystal clear picture of this ambition. A 2014 survey by the Hartford found that a staggering 59% of millennials aspired to become business leaders within the next 5 years. This wasn't just about power, it was about security and progress in a world where they felt they'd started at a disadvantage. In the same survey, 35% of millennials cited a clear career path as one of the most important ways an employer could show investment in them. Their focus on leadership was intense. A 2014 Deloitte survey revealed that while 78% were strongly influenced by a company's innovation, they felt their employers weren't doing enough to develop their leadership skills. This desire for development, coupled with their willingness to work long hours, with 73% reporting working more than 40 hours a week, and their prioritization of job security, shows a generation that internalized the climb the ladder ethos as the most rational and pragmatic strategy for achieving success and overcoming the economic headwinds they faced. 2. Gen Z and diverse career views. Now let's pivot to Gen Z. They entered a completely different world of work. The gig economy, agile startups, and the explosion of the creator economy, where individuals become key opinion leaders, KOLs, showed them that being a boss was no longer the only or even the best path. Their career landscape is less like a single skyscraper and more like a sprawling city with countless avenues to explore. More importantly, they had a front row seat to the phenomenon of millennial burnout. They saw their older siblings and colleagues sacrifice their mental and physical well-being in pursuit of that corner office, only to be met with crushing stress and an always-on culture. This direct observation led them to ask a very logical question: is it worth it? The answer for many was a resounding no. This has resulted in a seismic shift in aspiration. A 2025 Deloitte survey revealed a shocking statistic: only 6% of Gen Z said their primary career goal is to reach a leadership position. This isn't a minor dip, it's a fundamental rejection of the old model. Instead, they focus on acquiring skills, having meaningful experiences, and most critically, achieving a healthy work-life balance. A significant portion of Gen Z even prefers lateral moves over climbing the ladder. This means switching companies for a similar position but a fresh environment, or completely changing industries to challenge themselves. For them, a career isn't a ladder. It's a career web or a jungle gym where every direction, up, down, or sideways, is a valid move as long as it adds to their portfolio of skills and experiences. 3. Ambition in a different way. So does this mean Gen Z lacks ambition? Absolutely not. Their ambition is just channeled differently, and arguably it's even more intense and immediate. While they aren't keen on the responsibilities of traditional leadership, they want to increase their income quickly. Promotion is one way, but they are also more than willing to job hop for higher pay. They want to learn fast and crucially get recognized fast. This is where the nuance comes in, creating what appears to be a contradiction. A 2025 poll from Express Employment Professionals found that hiring managers perceive Gen Z as the most entitled generation when it comes to raises and promotions, with 39% holding this view. Yet in the same survey, 61% of those same managers agree that younger employees are just as ambitious as older generations were. So what's going on? It's not a contradiction. It's a redefinition of the term promotion. Gen Z wants quick validation, not necessarily to manage others. For them, a promotion is tangible recognition of their skill acquisition and impact. It's the real-life equivalent of leveling up in a video game. They want the title bump and salary increase that acknowledges their enhanced market value, but they are often uninterested in the administrative burdens of managing people's schedules, performance reviews, and conflicts. Their ambition is focused on enhancing their personal capabilities. A Deloitte survey found that 70% of Gen Z are actively developing skills to advance their careers every week, a higher rate than their millennial counterparts. If they don't receive that validation in their current role, they are more than willing to seek it elsewhere. 4. Side hustles and the new definition of success. This redefinition of success becomes even more apparent when we look at the rise of the side hustle. This is no longer a fringe activity. It has become a central pillar of the modern career, a trend supercharged by Gen Z. The numbers are staggering. Nearly half of all Gen Z adults, 48%, have a side gig, the highest of any generation. And while financial need is a powerful catalyst, with rising living costs making a single income insufficient for many, the motivations run much deeper. An Intuit survey provides a crucial window into this mindset, revealing that the top drivers for starting a side hustle are to be their own boss, 49%, and to pursue their passions, 42%. This reframes the side hustle from a mere financial tool to an act of identity creation and entrepreneurial expression. It's a space where individuals can exercise control, build something of their own, and engage in work that provides a sense of purpose that their primary job may lack. The global side hustle economy was valued at over $556 billion in 2024, underscoring its permanence. This trend is forcing a complete reevaluation of the return on investment of a career. The traditional markers, a high-level title, a corner office, are being replaced by a new diversified set of metrics. In this new calculus, a 25-year-old with a strong personal brand, multiple income streams from freelancing and content creation, and a flexible schedule can be perceived as more successful than a 35-year-old mid-level manager with a decade of experience but a modest salary and a rigid 9-to-5 schedule. Success is now defined by a diversified income portfolio and control over one's time. This is supported by data showing that an incredible 77% of Gen Z workers would rather have flexibility and free time than climb the career ladder quickly. This is a profound generational difference. When millennials started their careers, success was almost exclusively tied to internal advancement within a single organization. 5. Impact on the workplace environment. These differing ambitions are sending powerful shockwaves through organizations, disrupting long-standing models of talent management and leadership. First, companies are struggling with Gen Z's high career velocity, often labeled as job hopping. Data from Revelio Labs is stark. Gen Z averages just 1 year at each company during their early careers. This isn't disloyalty, it's a rational strategic response to a labor market that often rewards movement more than tenure. The implication is clear: the traditional 5-10-year career path is dead. To retain Gen Z talent, companies must design micro-career paths that demonstrate visible growth, learning opportunities, and compensation increases within a 12 to 24-month window. This requires a fundamental shift toward dynamic talent management, including robust and continuous learning programs and structured job rotations to prevent boredom and build cross-functional skills. Second, an interesting and increasingly common consequence is the rise of very young managers. To retain ambitious Gen Z employees, some companies are promoting them quickly, resulting in an inverted hierarchy, where a 25-year-old manager leads a team that includes 35-year-old, often more experienced millennials. This scenario can create significant psychological friction. The friction can stem from a clash between the millennials' deep institutional knowledge and the Gen Z managers' digital nativity. Millennial managers tend to focus on empathy and support, while Gen Z employees crave direct, continuous, and actionable feedback. They want a coach, not just a supportive boss. When the roles are reversed, navigating this dynamic requires a high degree of emotional intelligence from both parties. Finally, the entire culture of the workplace must change. For Gen Z, a positive and supportive workplace culture is not a perk, it is a prerequisite. They demand radical flexibility, robust support for mental health, and authenticity from their employers, especially around values like diversity, equity, and inclusion. 6. How can both generations achieve career goals? So how can we bridge this divide and create a workplace where everyone can thrive? For leaders and managers, many of whom are millennials, the first step is to abandon outdated adages. The old refrain, "You have to pay your dues and work your way up like I did," is counterproductive. Instead, managers must practice active, empathetic listening to understand the unique goals of each Gen Z employee. Recognize that their desire for rapid growth is not entitlement, but a product of their fast-paced digital world. Shift from being a director of tasks to a developer of people. Help them find opportunities, assign new projects, and propose salary increases based on performance, not just seniority. Become a coach who is invested in their growth, even if it means preparing them for their next role outside the company. Conversely, Gen Z professionals can benefit from harnessing their ambition with strategic patience. Not everything can be achieved overnight. Before jumping to a new job, conduct a thorough analysis. Is the root cause of your dissatisfaction a truly dead-end role, or is it a challenging manager who is pushing you to grow? A great manager who is invested in your development can be a far more valuable long-term asset than a small salary bump elsewhere. Furthermore, don't underestimate the value of so-called boring skills learned in traditional roles. Navigating complex organizational structures, building deep institutional knowledge, and developing sophisticated stakeholder management skills are critical competencies for any future entrepreneurial venture or high-level leadership position. Conclusion. In the end, this isn't a story of one generation being right and the other wrong. Each has a definition of success forged by the unique economic and technological climate of their time. Millennials shaped by the recession sought stability on a predictable ladder. Gen Z shaped by digital disruption, and the gig economy seeks flexibility and skill acquisition in a dynamic web. Neither approach is inherently superior. The future of professional success will likely belong to those individuals and organizations that can synthesize the best of both worlds. The most resilient professionals will be those who combine Gen Z's agile, skill-focused, and entrepreneurial mindset with the strategic patience, deep relationship-building skills, and organizational savvy that millennials were forced to learn. For organizations, the path forward is clear. The most successful companies will be those that stop fighting the tide and instead redesign their entire talent philosophy. This means embracing flexibility, investing in continuous development, and creating a culture that supports a broader, more holistic, and ultimately more human definition of what it means to succeed. Whether you want to climb high in an organization or forge your own path, the most important thing is to understand your own goals and communicate them clearly to those around you. In doing so, the generational gap narrows and everyone is better for it. So what does career advancement mean to you? Are you climbing a ladder, navigating a web, or building something entirely new? Share your perspective regardless of your generation in the comments below. This is an interesting question that will elicit diverse personal viewpoints. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe to the GENSHIFT channel to continue exploring fascinating topics like work purpose and values in our next episode.